Hello everyone, how are you doing? This is Thomas Trafford from the Cedarwood Sanctuary coming back at you. I've been away for a while, and I'm sure you all noticed. So happy New Year to you all. I hope you had a wonderful holiday season. I hope it was restful and jovial at the same time. And I know that there was some, especially here in Canada, North America, at that time, it was right when there was a certain wave crashing that we won't get into, but I know that a lot of people's plans were altered because of it. Anyway, so hopefully you had a wonderful, restful holiday season, and like me, maybe had too much sugar in the system, but not a bad thing. Not complaining about that. Always worth it for hanging out with friends and family. And I hope that the new year has been wonderful as it started off for you, and that you're feeling rejuvenated and ready for whatever 2022 brings. I haven't put up a video in a while, truth be told. I was actually waiting for some tech to come in as well. So I think in this video and going forward, we're going to have some better sound quality thanks to this little camera here. No, it's a microphone. This thing that's on me that's black will give us better sound and hopefully better picture as well. So yeah, let's get into it. It's interesting having a new year come, and I saw a bunch of posts online where people were just kind of saying like it's another day, like any other day, and let's stop kind of ascribing this importance to the 1st of January, and like we do, what happens 12 times a year, like we go from the 30th or the end of a month to a new month. And I understand that, and I hear that. But it's interesting being in the esoteric community and being, a light worker and an energy worker, because there is so much more going on. I mean, I know a lot of people don't really have space or time for astrology, and for the heavenly galactic bodies, but I certainly do. And I would assume that if you're here and you're watching this video that you also do. So, with the alignment of the planets, with the passing of the ellipses, remembering my science, the ellipses of the planets as they go around the sun. The cycle of it all. It is in that way energetically. It is a new start. There's a shift. That's probably a better word. And I think that shift happens, I'll give it that it happens multiple times a year. New moons, full moons, eclipses, weather patterns, seasons, the birth, the death, the sleep cycle, the rejuvenation, the changing of the tides. There's a lot of stuff that happens because we are energetic beings and we live in an energetic world that we are currently experiencing as material, as carbon-based material density. And we've all kind of agreed to do this, go for this ride in this kind of third-dimensional holodeck. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Point being that the energies of 2022 are anew, and they feel great so far. I obviously, as someone who's in this field of work, I have lots of friends in this field of work, and I can't call them colleagues because I haven't yet worked with them. But I mean, I suppose there is no real better word. The other people that are doing this same work. And, that runs quite the gamut in terms of names that are known, names that are not. But anyway, I tried to kind of keep a finger on the pulse of everything that's going on in terms of other people that are out there that are doing similar work to me. Um, you know, not in a comparison way, because I don't believe that that helps anybody out, and that's not what I think any of us should be doing in our lives. Comparison only creates contrast, and contrast only creates, a less satisfactory state of being. But in terms of people who read energy in a different way than I do, I'm lucky enough to work with. I'm part of a collective of mediums and energy workers that give readings via Zoom, because we're in different parts of the country here in Canada, and we say at the beginning of every reading that we read energy. All of us read energy differently, and that messages will come to who they are meant to come to, and yeah, so it's in that way there is it's like a snowflake in terms of everyone's connectivity. And I am someone, I think I've said before, that I believe that everyone has the ability to connect to the subtle realms and to speak the language of spirit, and to kind of harness that and wield that into messages and, therefore behaviors and actions that help us through our day and through our lives. And so in that way, if we can all do it, and we know that we are all different and have different fingerprints and different DNA and things like that, there's a similar quality to the way that we all connect. Some people are really good with divination tools, like a crystal ball or reading tea leaves. Palm reading, I'm so curious about it. I want to be better at that and know more. So in that way, it's like in any field, there are people that have their own take, their own niche, their own understanding, and I like to learn as much as I can and to be aware of what other people are saying that are sensitive to energy, the way that I am. So that was a long-winded way of saying that I am no astrologer at all. I want to get better at kind of that practice is one that really fascinates me. There are people that I know that, like, the depth that you can go into in astrology is fascinating, and the complicated way that birth charts and this rising and that, and I have a generic understanding of it, but it's nowhere near where I would like it to be. So there's some tarot readers and some card pullers that same thing. I will pull cards from my decks, as I've done before, the ones that I have here, but I'm not super well versed in a lot of the kind of like intricate card pulling stuffs. So point being, I've been watching a lot of my colleagues' videos, and and some via newsletter and things like that. And what I find really fascinating is that if there are some that do energy updates for either the year or the month, or projections into the future of what 2022 will bring. Some people I've seen have gone further than that. They've done the next couple of years, 2022 to 2024, 2025, that kind of thing. Fascinating stuff. And what I find really interesting about, keeping an eye on all of those things is seeing the differences, more interestingly to me is the similarities. So it seems that everyone is saying the same thing about 2022, and that's a wonderful thing, because it is a positive. Lord knows we've had a hard couple of years, and everyone is still kind of in their own bubble of coping and cocooning and re-emerging, re-identifying switching around the way that we view ourselves and view society and view others. I think there's been a lot of shift that's happened in the last couple of years. And I think that it's worth saying that it hasn't obviously all been pleasant. I am someone who believes very strongly that everything happens for a reason. And, I think that's definitely true of the pandemic. And of where we all find ourselves, there really seems to be, again, like I'm going to use the word shift, but it's almost like a rope. That's funny. So I'm being shown a rope, and the rope of reality is how I'm hearing it. And one of those, imagine one of those massive like ship ropes. And it's just being unwound the other way. So you're seeing tendril upon tendril, all of the threads that twist together to make the rope. And it's not so much about strength or fraying, although it is kind of like separating into lanes. So if the rope of reality is untwisting, I think we now find ourselves in a spot where, it's kind of anyone's guess. I think that's what's throwing people off. I think I've said before in a video that I think that we live in a world or in a reality where all things are true and all realities are real, right? And so I know that pisses a lot of people off, frankly. And I know a lot of people, are like looking behind me for my tin hat for those kind of things. But I really do think it's true. First of all, without kind of the esoteric part of it, we all have our own perception of reality anyway. So if you can agree that this box here, look in my camera, this box is fixed, right? We live in a fixed reality. Our perception of it is still completely different. So if the box in which we live is fixed, you have all these players within the box, which is all of us. And because we all have our own desires, our own thoughts, our own beliefs, our own narratives, our own filters, all the filters, right, that we wear, gender identity, sexual orientation identity, cultural identity, racial identity. There's all of those things that inform how we perceive the world. And then there's the things, I would argue, sliding the esoteric back in, that we come in with, our soul's purpose, our soul's journey, what we're carrying a kind of Akashic remembrance from multiple lifetimes, into our DNA, encoded into our DNA, into who we are. And that is ancestral trauma. That's like the lifetimes where, I don't know, everything could have happened, right? Murder, rape, joy, childbirth, slavery, oppression, all of the themes of life we experience over and over as we journey from lifetime to lifetime. So there's a lot of other stuff that we're bringing in with us. So all of that becomes so specific when it comes down to the individual, and there are other things we could get into that won't be helpful for this, but like, soul splitting and walk-ins and things like that. But ultimately, as we all find ourselves here and in body, I am like a thing, like I have a perceivable beginning and end of my physicality, although that is not the end of me, right? As I said in my last video, we have a 10-foot energy field around us. We have our Merkaba. We have our soul. We have all our chakra system goes outside of our body, both below and above. So there's a lot more to us than just this, but let's work with the physical for the moment. So we all have a different kind of perception of where we're at, who we are. That I think that's from an ego-driven place. I think that that's why there is a lot of attention on the outside world. We look to our family from a young age, right? We look to our parents or our caregivers to tell us we did a good job or to reinforce certain things. And those things that get reinforced then become our belief structures and become our place of operating from. And so, but even within that, and in a family unit, you would all possibly share the same kind of belief structure, but you wouldn't necessarily have the same thoughts about all of those things, right? I know even in my family, we love to have discussions, but we don't all agree or think the same thing, right? So the uniqueness of each one of us, I really do kind of subscribe to the idea that we are spirit experiencing itself through incarnation, through physicality, through carbon-based dense life. And I think we're doing that to kind of find our way back, to learn as much as we can as we kind of expand and grow and move our consciousness. And it's really an increase of bandwidth. So it's not that anything's right or wrong or better or worse. It's just that as the bandwidth increases, and as we kind of push ourselves into expansion, remembering that ancient awakening coming through every cell, through all of our DNA, through our genetic code, as we sleep, as we dream, as we travel and dream, remembering the bigness of who we are, the grandness of the energy we carry, and therefore our autonomy and our sovereignty and our like stewardship of the planet and our sameness with every other person and being that is choosing to and doing the same thing in their own way. So in that understanding, if you know, the way that my verbiage for it is always like vibration, but I know that a lot of people can see this kind of system to a vibratory pattern where it's like, well, obviously the highest vibration is the best, and so like low dense vibrations are the worst. But that carries a judgment with it that I don't think is really part of it. I think if you switch it this way, right? So it's going that way. It's just an increase of bandwidth and therefore capacity, right? We all, well, if you're anywhere near the age that I am, you remember the dial-up sound and like early fax machines and things like that. So think about like even when the internet started to expand, even our phones going like, 3G to LTE, now into the 5G world, which is also a contentious issue. The bandwidth increases and therefore the capacity increases. And I think that's a good way to phrase it without it having a judgmental quality to it. So as we are aware of more and more as the bandwidth expands, it then allows us to become more compassionate people because we understand our own spot, we understand our own journey, we understand that everyone else has theirs, and that they are all things being equal, which at the end of the day they are all equal. So if you think about choices of other people, especially these days, that you don't like or that rub you the wrong way or that you find irritating or unhelpful or all of those things, if you start to kind of like peel that back, right, and see what's happening underneath it in a very kind of honest way, authenticity, integrity, those are things that come along with that increase in bandwidth. And so when you look under the lid a little bit, you have to get to the point where you're like, oh yeah, no, this is definitely judgment. I am judging that person. And you think about those vibrations, right? Judgment is kind of a child of fear. Anger is often a child of fear in that way. Those are all very similar. They have similar vibratory systems, numbers, spots on the spectrum. And I think that a lot of our reactions to things, this is the thing. You can't have an emotion without having a belief. So if your emotional reaction to something is, well, no, this is bad. This is really bad. I can't believe this is happening. This is so bad. Well, why is it bad? It's bad because of all these reasons that you can list. But it's like, okay, so you then have a belief that you believe that these things should be a certain way that they are not. And therefore, the thing that makes them not the way you believe they should be makes them bad. So then you have the emotion of fear, anger, annoyance, irritation, frustration, all of those things, because it's not how it should be, it's not how it should be, but there is no should. You just happen to hold a belief that looks like you would like things to look a lot more like this. And so ultimately, we have to own that is therefore judgment. So, that's why I'm someone who says that expectations are like, they are the bane of our existence a little bit, because if we have an expectation of how a situation, a person, an event, anything should go, then when, as is always the case, when everything doesn't fit nicely into that box, we have to then deal with the anxiety, the frustration, the panic, the anger, the fear, all of the things that come along with it. So all of that is resistance, right? All of that is contrast. It's like digging your heels in and going like, well, I guess those are brakes, but you know what I mean? I'm thinking of like the Roadrunner. I'm thinking of the Roadrunner trying to stop, and then like the tire track coming from the heels, digging in. So that's like a very, I can speak from my own experience. That is a not the most satisfying place to sit in your life, in your energetic journey, in your emotional journey. That is an undesirable point of perception for me. And it's like narrow. I think the way that we get to words like dense or hard or narrow is because it does feel the bandwidth is small there. It doesn't have the ability to let more in. And so those higher perspectives, which have the increased bandwidth and let more in, they also have with them intrinsically the idea of flow. They're more liquid, they're more malleable, they're more elastic, and there's less like rigidity and less walls and less certainty. And therefore, there's more room for the compassion, the understanding, the love, the empathy. There are certain things that I know I would draw a line for, but it's because all of my work is working on the knowledge of who I am. So all of my work about my expansion is, understanding where I came from, understanding how I got to be a version of myself that I feel I've moved very much past, and why, right? So like I was saying before, the belief structures, the narratives, the the societal kind of norms that you just kind of like start without realizing it. I think as we grow up, we just start to kind of put on hats and layers of clothes and like name tags and labels and all these things that are like, this is who I am, this is who I am. And at some point, hopefully from a very early age, before it becomes, later on in life when the bottom falls out from all of that stuff that you've attached to yourself, that's when we use the term midlife crisis or, quarter life crisis or whatever, late life crisis. There can be an identity crisis that comes from, either never having looked at that. And so suddenly you're years in realizing that you're going through these motions of the person that you thought you were, that you decided to be 25 years ago, and you're still wearing all the stuff and you're like, this is it, right? Like, we're good? But there's an other song being sung. There's an other calling. There's something else that's not part of that. And it becomes really, really hard to ignore. And I think that's where you get into like coping mechanisms and people blowing up their lives and self-sabotage and identity crisis. And so I think if from an earlier age we're kind of shown that we ask a lot of questions to get to understand the world that we live in. And I think that's what forms a lot of this early in life kind of idea of the who of who we are. But if it's shown to us that as you go, if you're always checking in on that, and if you're always kind of exploring that, your actions, your behaviors, your thoughts, there's a lot more. I mean, I would argue there's a lot more that we come in with that I think a lot of people will leave subcutaneous. That's how I heard it. Yeah, like under the skin. Yeah. So it's like we'll leave it in there and not really feel we have to deal with it until we do, right? So let's name that the gut, right? So if that is the gut, if that's the intuition, if that's the part of you that is the universe and is connected to all, then that's the part that I think needs the most honoring, and I think needs the most frequent check-ins. So if from that place we're always kind of asking, if we start to move our whys there, I think that we're very well served. Because you do start to look under the hood, as I was saying, and you do start to realize like, oh, that's a judgment, and I'm reacting so strongly to that because I'm afraid. I'm afraid of the opposite being true. So I'm really suddenly hot and impassioned and like need that to go a certain way, and it's not, and it doesn't have to, and that like is a projection of your fear, and so you start to kind of be able to unwrap your reactions, your emotions, your behaviors, and that allows you to kind of trace it back. So then you can start to find not only like the narratives, and from that the beliefs, the belief structures. Like a lot of us have beliefs we don't even know we're holding on to, or that we wouldn't necessarily say they're in our belief structure, and suddenly you can find yourself in a conversation or a situation where you are getting that feeling, you are getting very hot, you are having this reaction that you don't understand, or this opinion flies out of your mouth and you're like, no, yeah, that's how it is. And examining that, you can get to like that is coming from a place of fear, and that fear is coming from that belief, and that belief's because of this. And a lot of the time, like I was saying, the filters, it goes obviously back to when we're putting all the hats on and the coats and the name tags and the picking up the bags, and we have all of that stuff that we're carrying that we self-identify. A lot of that gets broken down, gets unloaded, right? Gets taken off. So there's like a freedom, there's an air of release and of calm, and of like, okay, let's like take a second and take a breath and like reevaluate. And that's a really beautiful thing. It's a really freeing, gorgeous thing that allows you to see more of your truth and more of who you are, and more of that like subcutaneous song that's being sung. That thing that gets that comes more into the body, and it comes more out of you. Um, and so a lot of those are those early life kind of belief structures and things, but a lot of them often, as I think many of you probably would be able to attest to, are wounds, can be traced back to wounds. And sometimes the wounds that we have, again, like the narratives, like the stories, we don't know we have them. And, or we don't know that they're as deep as they are. Um, yeah, I've heard a bunch of people in conversations. I can think of like 2 or 3 conversations in the past year where someone's kind of told a story and it's in this laughing way. But you get to the end of the story, it's a memory, or it's like, oh yeah, God, this one time when I was small, like blah blah, and you look around the room and everyone's eyes are a bit like, I'm so sorry that happened to you. Like that's not okay. You're like, oh, like oh, I thought it was funny, but oftentimes our trauma wounds we make um, into a comedic story. That's a way to be able to cope with it, and it's a way to be able to express and tell the world. So yeah, so I think, long way of saying, but I think that we're all kind of going through that. We're going through that en masse, I think more globally than we ever have. Or, sorry, let me re-say that. We are now all unable, we are much more unable to distract, pick a new lane, self-sabotage, pick something else up. All of the old kind of like coping mechanisms and things that we would do, a lot of those have been removed. And so I think a lot of people are having with this, this reality we're finding ourselves in, the shared reality we're finding ourselves in. I think we're realizing quite quickly that a lot of people do have, right, the rope, oh, I can't do it well, the rope unfurling and becoming so many different strands. And I think a lot of people are frustrated and confused with like why that is and why everyone isn't on the same strand as me, because that's the only way I can think about how to be. But that you can hear in that the like panic and the fear. And listen, it is okay to be where you're at, anywhere that you are at. If you are watching this video and you got this far in, you are definitely allowed to be where you are. What I would offer is that if those words, or if these words resonate with you, ask yourself, what is it about this that is making me have this feeling? Where does this come from? Is this a fear? Is this a wound? Is this a judgment? Is this something I can fix? Is this, could I insert more compassion into this? Could I try to step in someone else's shoes? Could I look at this from another angle and see, and if I'm so sure, if I'm so stuck, I can't think of another word, if I'm so rooted in my certainty, then doesn't it seem very, very, very likely that everyone else that I'm seeing and talking to and interacting with is that rooted in their certainty? And if we truly all have a different version of that certainty and of literally reality itself, just like our fingerprints and just like our genes, then what does that tell you? What does that mean? That means that it makes, I think the thing that probably is really fearful about it is that it makes reality really tenuous. It makes the things that we find so solid, the roof above our heads, the walls, it makes them made out of tissue paper. It becomes a lot of paper tigers, and I think that's really terrifying for a lot of people. I will say that I'm at a place where I find that really freeing. I get a lot of joy out of that. I think I know there are people out there that if you've known me for a long time would be falling off their chairs. But I think that's the great thing about it, that's the bandwidth expansion, right? If you think, I know there are people out there that definitely think that I am, or have been in the past, have known a version of me in their reality that was very adverse to change. And the parts of me that understand that, the parts of me that can remember that person who is not the one that is speaking to you now. I get that. But I know that person was very afraid. I know that person was very wounded and hurt, and didn't feel validated, didn't feel worthy, didn't feel wasn't aware of his true nature and his true power and presence and his true worthiness, and that lack of self-worth, that lack of confidence, created somebody who was fearful and judgmental and therefore certain, and things had to go the way that they had to go, and therefore didn't like change. But with time, reflection, continuing the work of self-awareness, continuing to transmute, my pain into progress, my trauma into vitality, and knowing that is a life hack, like that's really a life hack and key to so much more, so much wider of a vista, and so much more saturation of color than ever thought possible. That version, that person who is not this person, never thought that this version of himself was possible. And that makes me really proud. That, yeah, I've been sitting with that a lot recently. I'm really happy with my journey and with like the progress that I make daily, and the ability that I am continuing to craft to be able to ask these questions of myself, and from a place of connecting with the oversoul or the meta self, or higher self, however you want to say it, the soul. And it allows that bandwidth to continue to expand, and then there's more learning, which is awesome. There's more integrity and accountability, which I was saying before, which is also awesome. And then with that bandwidth increasing, that's where you're taking off a lot of that stuff, a lot of those filters, a lot of those layers that were defining you before. And and then what can come in there is just, such freedom and such air, like I was saying before. So I'm very proud of that. What I have learned is that the one thing that you can never change about your life is change itself. So might as well step into the flow, right? Work at being fluid and being elastic, and being more with the air elements and the water elements, and getting tossed around by the tides. And if you can hold that spark, that light inside of you, if you can hold that truth of who you are, and that's what you're continuing to kind of like breathe your energy into focus your thoughts and energy on and kind of carry that. It doesn't matter then where the waves toss you. It doesn't matter what beach you get slapped upon, because anything that happens, that's where the elastic comes in. That's where the fluidity comes in. And anything that anything that comes your way, you will know what to do with. You have all the answers inside of you. There's time for everything. There's money for everything. It's all experience, and it's all between you and the universe. And where you put your thoughts becomes your reality. Where you put your energy becomes your reality. Where you put your emotions becomes your reality. And so the true life hack, the true power that you have is sitting in your heart field, being authentic, sovereign, accountable, having that integrity with yourself, and really allowing that to radiate out, right? Like sometimes in meditation, it's a little trick that I do that I can pass on to you guys, that sometimes in meditation I will imagine the light of the sun, or even more than that, the central sun of the galaxy, or a supernova, or something that is so almost like a nuclear kind of event, not like bomb or explosion, not like that, but that kind of heat, that kind of power, that kind of energy, and it connects me to the sun, it connects me to the planetary bodies and to the galaxy, and it gives me that sense of being big and that sense of being of everything. And then I bring it all back into my heart chakra, into my heart center, and I let it radiate out from that same energy radiating out. And that's the light I try to hold, and that's the light I try to give into the world. And that the results are wonderful. The results are really interesting. So if you are a meditator, which I suggest everyone should be, then that's a little bit of a helpful trick. If that's where your attention is, I guarantee it is alchemy. It's magic. I guarantee you that your relationships there will be more flow in your relationships. There will be more flow in your finances. There's less resistance. There's less digging your heels in like Roadrunner. Things aren't hard. They aren't rigid. They aren't wound. They loosen. They flow, and suddenly you don't even recognize what's going on in your, that email comes in, that phone call, that apology, that friend pops in your mind and you have to give them a call. All of that, it's really, really, truly beautiful. So I think in these times, that is definitely, I think, the way to go. I think it'll be really helpful in this year, in this year coming into 2022. And so back to the colleagues / I don't know, heroes of mine that I consume their work. So again, not being an astrologer or a numerologist, that's the other one, or numerology. So I am paraphrasing and parroting, I hope well, but the things that I can feel when I connect to my guides and to my higher self, I can feel a certain energy shift, vibration that's come into the planet starting, I would say, in December. I mean, I think if we had to do an esoteric calendar, I think the new year is really around the solstice. It's the December 21st portal. But we had some big energies in December. We had the 11/11 portal in November, and then we had the 12/12 portal in early December. I think there was a full moon in there, and like a meteor shower and an eclipse. Like there was a shocking amount of heavenly events that happened at the end of 2021. And I think that was just to get us ready to bring the energy into the planet that we are finding ourselves in now. And when, after the December 21st solstice, through the holiday season, coming into the new year, you can really feel the energy has definitely changed on the planet. And so what I have learned that supports this from other niches of the energy worker, light worker, esoteric world is, oh yeah, I'm going to do this badly. I'm so sorry to, who was it, Braca, I think, for butchering this. But so something about Jupiter, the way, the alignment of Jupiter and the way that the planets are in position with how we're moving through space in the upcoming year. I think it's something like January to May, mid-May, is going to be this huge time for manifestation and for abundance and actualization, if that makes sense. So the energy, it seems, is all the work that you feel you've been doing, the like trudging uphill in a windstorm kind of thing that many of us feel that we've been doing for, you know, however long, decades, some of us. That's going to come to an end. We're going to be going down the hill now. And so it really is energy of manifestation, of abundance, of actualization of all like the project you want to do, the dollars in the bank account, the finally writing that book, launching it, the creative pursuits. This is the time to do it. You know, the change of job, the change of relationship, anything that's been being sung from your subcutaneous self is happening now. And I think there's a bit of a break in the summer. I'm not sure what's happening there, but then that same kind of rotation, that same kind of planetary alignment comes back in the fall. I think it was somewhere after Labor Day. It was around my birthday. So somewhere around, let's say beginning of October through to end of the year. So it's a huge year. I mean, really, that's what, June, July, August, September. So only 4 out of the 12 months. So it's going to be a huge year for manifestation, for abundance. It's also going into the numerology. It's also the year of the 6. 222 with a 0 gives us a 6. There's some huge things happening numerologically this year. For instance, February 2nd will be 22222. The 11th of January was 111, There's some really big numerological things happening this year, which is all the more reason why I need to brush up on my numerology so I can understand it more. But I know that given the 3 2s, that 2022 is the year of the 6, and that the 6 is the number of abundance and wealth and dreams come true and that kind of actualization again. So this is what I mean, because I am not that kind of light worker or energy worker, but now so it's confirmation for me that the energies that I'm feeling connecting to are being felt and connected with from people who have more of a I guess a system of that connection, an ancient time-honored, you know, numerology and astrology go back, you know, as far as we do with language and civilization. So it's really interesting to see that everyone is actually saying all of the same things. Yeah. So it's very, very, very hopeful. I wanted to make this video shorter than my other ones, and I am almost doing a good job, but not quite. So thank you for staying and listening to all of that. If you have, I appreciate it. I got a new deck that before we go, I wanted to tell you guys about. So it's another deck I mentioned these guys before because I had the Starseed deck. Rebecca Campbell did the deck. I think it's by Hay House. I think they do a lot of these. Yes, it is. And it's the artwork by Danielle Noel. And yeah, if you can see that there. This is their other one that I have, the Starseed deck, which is really beautiful. God, I love Danielle's artwork so much. And this one's very, very cool. This is the work with light oracle cards. I've been reading about it, and it's really interesting how it's set up. So there's confirmation cards, inquiry cards, action cards, activation cards, and transmission cards in the order that you pull them and in the way that you pull them. But I am going to not use them like that at the moment today. What I would like, Spirit, I would like to have 2 cards. Let's do 2 cards. The first is going to be for the year 2022, and what the energy of that is, and what what the energy of 2022 is. And the second will be something interpersonal for us to keep in our awareness and to work with the energy of this year. Okay. So 2 cards, please, Spirit. Well, that's very interesting, given the times that we're living in and everything I said about the times that we're living in and how to hold that light. That's so interesting. So it's the Priestess card, which is wonderful for me because I definitely believe and have been seeing the truth come out about this, that the feminine divine is returning to the planet. The masculine divine has been ruling the planet for a very long time. It's, to me, as I've come to understand it, the planet, as we know, has been very out of balance because of that, and like down with the patriarchy. So this is the Priestess energy, which is amazing, that the 2022 will bring in the feminine energy and the feminine divine will come back. And it says, how are you being called to step up and lead? And I think that that's something that is really apt for the times right now, and us needing to step up and lead both in our own lives, who we are, that same thing I was talking about. Look at the here, the point of light that she has in her looks like her solar plexus. I was talking about the heart, but the point of light that we carry inside of us, I think that we're all being called to step up and lead, even in our own lives, in a different way, to come out of this pandemic, which let's now say endemic, hopefully, to come out of this anew and more like a caterpillar going into a cocoon and emerging as something new and beautiful. And so really focusing on that unity consciousness and ending that division and that judgment and that separation, that it seems very much that the patriarchal energies and the powers that be really want to keep on the planet. So the energy of the priestess coming in, feminine divine for 2022. How are you being called to step up and lead? And then, wow. Yeah, that's really beautiful. Thank you, Spirit. The one for us all to work on an interpersonal level with that inner light is the boundaries card. The boundaries card. Where do we need to establish better boundaries? And look, yet again, speaking of autonomy and sovereignty, that isn't great, is it? Sorry about that. Just that all of the hands coming and grabbing this figure in the card, and then the point of light that the figure is holding again inside themselves. So really affirming what I was talking about there in terms of that little trick or that little life hack that I do in my meditations. So thank you very much for watching this and for being with me on this journey. I wish you all the best. I hope your 2022 is just starting off so brilliantly and beautifully, and that you really can feel that shift in that energy on the planet, and that, rejuvenation, and that that change in the air, that the trudging is over and it's time to manifest and be abundant and reap the rewards of what we've sown. And the hardships we've been through, and a lot of that is about learning the lessons too. I think COVID, both the illness itself and also living through a pandemic era and all of the things that it's bringing with it, the politics, the division, all of that. I think we're really being called to look at, who we are, what we're bringing, what we want this world to be, how we could change it for the better. Not to go back to the way it was. Doesn't that just sound boring? Doesn't that sound like a waste? We don't need to go back to how it was. We need to build something better and start anew. And so really keeping that energy with us. I hope you're feeling it, and I hope you're ready. I hope you're feeling creative. Get those creative projects out there. Whatever it is, bake that cake, write that book, paint that painting, make a bracelet, whatever it is, with that abundant energy and with that manifestation energy, it's really also with a lot of the creative energy. So if you have a creative bone in your body, or you've been putting off a creative project, now is your time. And yeah, so thank you so much for watching. All love and light. I'll be back as soon as possible. And let me know in the comments if the sound and the picture were better. Let me know in the comments any thoughts that you guys have, or any questions for what to focus on in the future. Don't forget to share this with someone you think might need to hear it, and to like and subscribe. Okay, bye guys.